Hello there, dear viewers. We are back to look at some more local election results. It is now Saturday. We're in the early afternoon of Saturday, and we've had most of our stuff from the councillors and the councils through. 103 of 107 councils reporting to the BBC here. We've had our result of the by-election as well. We've had some of the mayoral contests. We've still got London to go for that one. Certainly looking closer there than people had anticipated, but now that we're actually going to start getting the results, it'll be interesting. How are you guys doing? First of all, let me know. Can you hear me? Because we seem to have like slight tech issues at the beginning of every single one of these. So if you let me know that the microphone is working, then we're off to a good start at the very least. I will begin things with just hang on, what am I trying to click on here? With our little list of the full results so far. So, where are we at? Labour control of 48 councils, that's up 8. And they put on 177 councillors, which puts them over 1,000. Liberal Democrats in second place for number of councils controlled and number of councillors, pushing the Tories into third so far. Lib Dems are up 2 councils and up 100 or so councillors. Conservatives are down 10 councils and down 457 councillors as well. So they've lost nearly half of what they've been defending the last time round so far. With only 4 councils left to declare, I doubt Tory losses will climb up to that nice round number of 500 councillors, just assuming all things being equal. But yeah, nonetheless, it's not been a good time for them. As you can probably imagine, we'll get into certain results in a bit. I will say as well, though, that although obviously Labour have come out with the most councils by far, the most councillors for that matter as well. The fact that the Tories have lost nearly 500 or so, Labour's put on about 170, 180. It's not as if it's all directly, transferring from the Tories to Labour. We know that much anyway. We know that there's the Reform Party at play. We know that there's a bit of turn. We know that there's people just staying in and whatnot. But this isn't. It isn't a Labour victory of the same degree that it's a Tory loss in these elections. If that makes sense. Not for me to poo-poo Labour. They're doing perfectly fine. But it's more of a great big stonking Tory problem right now than an absolutely immense Labour victory. That said, in a lot of the places that they need to be winning over support in order to be flipping seats back come the next general election, Labour seem to be making good inroads. So they're very much on track to that. Lee Hallam says, "Hi Swiss, I can hear you. Hello there, Lee." Charlie says, "Hello all." Lee says, "So that's a Tory victory. More than half survived." If that's the benchmark that we've got to set for it now, eh? Right, we'll do a last few ones on this list. So let's see. Independents and others, 1 council up 93 councillors. The Greens, no councils, however, 173 councillors, that's up 69. That's pretty nice for the Greens there. Obviously, it's a small number in just pure terms of number of councillors increased, but as a proportion of what they had before, it's pretty good, pretty respectable there. Residents' associations, they're up a little bit. The Workers' Party of Britain, Galloway's outfit, has put on 4 councillors, and Reform UK has put on 2 councillors as well. So don't go expecting both parties to be running any councils anytime soon just yet, but they're making a bit of presence felt. They're there somewhere. Right, and what have we got for the mayoral contests here? We've got 6 out of 11 declared. So East Midlands was won by Manchester, King of the North, still to be determined. Liverpool, Steve Rotherham, Labour. London, still to be determined. We've got North East Labour, Salford, still to be determined. South Yorkshire, Labour. Tees Valley, Ben Houchin of the Conservatives managed to hold on to that one, but we still don't know whether Andy Street in the West Midlands has held on to his. West Yorkshire is still to be announced, and York and North Yorkshire is Labour as well. And then PCCs. I'm not going to read out all the PCCs. Afraid you can go have a look at the PCCs yourself if you're really that person. All right then. So, funnily enough, as well, of all the many councils that have declared so far, and we've got 4 left to go, the one that I live in, North Tyneside, is one of the only ones that revealed their results yet. So I'm actually still having to wait to see what my end of the country has ended up doing here. Should we have a look at the by-election? I think we shall. Let me just bring up the results here. So Blackpool by-election. If I can find the, of course, we're doing the Wikipedia page for it. We have a comment here from Sir Richmond Autumn. Hi, Swiss. Can you give me your opinion on my campaign tagline? More, make Stoke-on-Trent unlovable and broken. Needs work. Dr. Richmond, it needs work. Lee Hallam says, terrible night for Labour in Thameside. Rayner's local council lost 3 seats, 2 to independents, 1 to Tories. I know that it's not been, I mean, as much as Labour has obviously, they've put on councillors, they've put on control of councils, they've obviously had a good night of it. It's not as if that they've swept forwards in all areas, is it? From what I've heard, it tends to be, funnily enough, it tends to be the areas that Labour need to proactively win off the Tories from the actual general election. They're the ones that they're making the best inroads to. Places that actually Labour, some of which, not everywhere, but places where actually Labour were already kind of pretty dominant or doing well. In some places there, they've fallen back a little bit. I think I think I saw Sky News yesterday. They did a projection of how the vote share had changed versus last year and also versus 2019. 2019 was obviously, it was Tories down by a bunch and Labour up by a nice amount. But versus last year, versus the council elections in last year, I think they had the Tories down by about 2.5 points. I think they had Labour down by about 1.5 points. So, of course, Tories being down further than Labour were, Tories going to make more losses. Labour are going to pick some up just because the contest being fought. But yeah. Again, I'm not trying to. I'm trying to strike the right tone of how I think we can best describe it. Certainly, it's not been a good time for the Tories. It's not been a complete wipeout for them. On paper, it could have gone worse. There are certain contests that they could have lost, including certain mayoral contests that they could have lost as well. But there's no denying that this is a bad set of results for them. It seems, touch wood, like Rishi Sunak isn't getting ousted at the moment. The moment of danger for that seems to have passed, but it's undoubtedly been a bad night for the Tories with these locals. Labour, on the other hand, I'd say they've had fair to good, not very good, not exceptionally good, not fantastic. They've not been putting on numbers to the same degree that the Tories have been losing them. Certainly, a lot of these smaller parties and independents have been benefiting from the locals this time round, but they've done well enough. Claire King says Lee Labour had a great showing in Oldham. Let's look at the Blackpool South by-election then, because here I've been talking about in terms of the local elections, councils, councillors, mayors, and all the rest of it, but we'll see the actual by-election itself. So we'll just skip on straight down to the results. It will come as no surprise. Labour won, as we expected would be the case. So Labour put on 20% share of votes and ended up with 58.9%, or over 10,000 votes. Obviously, by-election turnout's lower than a general. The Conservatives did make it into second. The Tories were in second. We didn't quite get that scenario where Reform managed to leapfrog the Tories into second, which we'd sort of said, if Reform have a very good time of it, and the Tories have a very bad time of it, it's just within the realms of possibility. Well, I think there's a reason that we said it was in the realms of possibility, because if you look at this, the Tories did make it into second, 17.5% share of the vote, down 32%, might I add. Think about those numbers for just a moment. Down 32 points, with only 17.5 left to show for the number of people who voted for them. Reform UK on 16.9%, less than 1% in it there. Between the Conservatives and Reform UK. So absolutely Reform UK breathing down the Tories' necks in that by-election there. A very, very close third, getting 16 points. And I think I'd said before that Reform would have had to have got at least double digits for it not to be a bad result. And I think speaking to Dan Hill when we did our stream the other night, he'd sort of said if they were able to match where they're getting in sort of the national opinion polls at the moment or do better than that, then that would certainly be seen as pretty all right. So I think Reform UK will probably be disappointed that they couldn't quite beat the Tories into third here because they came so close. Nonetheless, it's a result that puts them on the map. It certainly shows that they're a formidable potential vote loser for the Tories just by their very existence. We've got the Liberal Democrats there in fourth, the Greens there in second, both of them on about 2% each. The Independent, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, Monster Raving Looney, and the new open non-political organised leadership beaten out by Monster Raving Loonies by over nearly 3 times as many votes there. And we've got a nice little block here. So let me think. The Tories down 32 points. My goodness, that's a hell of a drop. Labour up 20 points. I think this by-election, from what I remember of the coverage, they said that this one might represent the third largest swing from the Tories to Labour in a post-war by-election, or something like that. Like, we've been in this era in the past year or two of these very historic by-elections where all these big statistics are coming along. Oh, it's the biggest swing since blah blah blah. It's the all this, that, and the other. This wasn't the most dynamite by-election for a result, but that's kind of because we've been so used to everything we've seen over the past year anyway. Any average year with any average government, you look at a by-election where Labour's 20 points up, the Tories are 32 points down. You go, my God, what's happening? But that's the time we're living in at the moment. So yeah, I'd say on that front, by the way, talking about this by-election as yet another instance of where things are likely to go in the general. I mean, it fits the trend. It very much fits the trend that we've seen from a lot of these other by-elections as well. I would be interested to see another by-election at some point where it's another one where like the Lib Dems are competitive and then ended up taking it again just to see whether it still bears true that people are voting Labour in the areas where Labour will beat the Tories and Lib Dem in the areas where the Lib Dems will beat the Tories, because we've seen that pattern in by-elections before. But certainly what we're seeing at the moment, every indicator from the by-election goes on to say that we're very much still on track for Labour storming it at the next election. I know that there have been some reports based off of projected national vote share, which is obviously where they take these results and go, okay, here are the results of these local elections. What would it be like if they applied to the whole of the country? Where would it be? But by their very nature, when you do these projected national vote shares, the way in which people vote in local elections is different from the way in which people vote in general elections, not least that you've got a much heavier presence of many of the smaller parties, independents, residents' associations, etc. And just generally speaking, there's more of a willingness amongst the public to vote for not one of the main parties in locals than you do in the general. So I think there was a projection made off of this national vote share where they'd said, if this was replicated in the country coming general, then Labour would still be the largest party, but actually they maybe still be short of the majority or only just scrape it, and the Tories would be faring a lot better and whatnot. But it's based off of a very particular set of inputs there, which is the local election results. So I think going off of this by-election is probably a good way to read it if you're looking for a contest in one individual seat, and then maybe try and look at the broader picture across the country of which areas are moving further towards Labour, which areas are moving further away from the Tories by what degree. Labour winning back Hartley, for example, one that obviously infamously, when there was a by-election there in 2021, I think Boris Johnson's incumbent Tory government managed to win it, and that's one of the, if there ever were a target seat, it would definitely be one of those. Like King says, my seat is going to be interesting at the general election. I could see Labour, Tory, or the Workers' Party winning. Or the Workers' Party! Hello, King. That is interesting. What's your seat? Lee Ball says, timing your stream to catch shock live results, Chris. Well, if suddenly Sadiq Khan is out of a job, maybe we might just catch it. Lee Ball says, I wish over 40% voted neither red or blue in the general election. So let me go back onto my results here. What else do we have? We've still got 4 councils left to declare. I want to see if we're starting to. Oh, okay. I'll read out a little bit of the latest that we've got on some of these counts that are still on here. We've got to the portion of the stream where it's Swiss reads the news for you. Knife Edge results in West Midlands. Hello, over in Birmingham, where it looks like all the counting is. There are about half a dozen count centres around the region, and there won't be a formal result until they're all done. Both the Conservatives and Labour claim the result here is on a knife edge, but it's Labour who are sounding more pessimistic. Conservative win here, victory for Andy Street would be a helpful psychological fillip for Rishi Sunak. We're expecting a result at 2:30. Stay tuned. So, okay, indications from that one appear to be that maybe Street will just hold on to it as well. And again, you look at the results altogether, this has not been a good set of elections for Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives, but them holding on to, a couple of mayors at the very least allows them to go, okay, we've not been, totally defeated everywhere across the board. There are still certain areas where we seem to be doing better than a trouncing or wipeout. So that's the thing they can sort of cling to and go, oh, well, it was. I've already heard the phrase, oh, well, governments always have a hard time mid-term. Um, yeah, that's what we'll be sort of holding on to there. Claire King says my seat is Oldham East. Oldham, and you think the Workers' Party could be in contention there? I am a tad surprised by that because, I mean, I know obviously Galloway won that by-election, but I would have thought from the general, I'm still expecting parties, minor, especially quite new minor parties such as the Workers' Party, to probably still get squeezed significantly enough versus by-elections or locals that you'd probably still see one of the main two parties taking it. But hey, you might have some local knowledge that I don't. Frank says, "Hi Swiss, sorry, but the data is awful where I am right now. Have I missed much?" Um, not really. I've just done a little recap of the results here. We've gone over the full by-election result. We've had a look at the broad picture of the locals and the councils and everything, and just sort of distilling down how it's gone. Doesn't appear that Sunak's going to get challenged for his lead at the moment off the back of these. I think the Tories have done just about not apocalyptically awful enough for that to happen, but it's still not been a good time for them. Labour's done pretty well. Lib Dems have been there, doing all right. Greens have been there. But basically, if you're not a Tory, if you're not the Conservative Party, you've probably had a pretty good time at these locals. You've probably got some point that says, yeah, we're in the direction. Claire King says, Frank, you missed an hour. Swiss was singing. The Indies were pro Gaza, says Claire in Oldham. Um, are there any results that any of you guys have seen in the past day or so that you found especially surprising, or anything that you'd like us to look in on while I'm here? Charlie Simmons in the chat says, overall the Tories are in the shit. Yes, Labour aren't doing well everywhere, but the Tory votes are still being squeezed by everyone else too. Won't be surprised if the Libs also do well at the general election now. Yeah, I think when the number of people out there in the country willing to vote Tory has dropped as much as it has, then you're going to see all kinds of people doing well in the wake of that. You're going to have the Lib Dems doing well in areas where the Lib Dems pose a good challenge to the Tories. You'll have Labour doing well there in the areas Labour pose a good challenge to the Tories. And now that you've got this sort of added element that has really become prominent in the last few months, which obviously, if you think back to the 2019 election, the Tories did well for themselves anyway. It was a good result for them with Boris. But one of the extra little beneficiary factors there was obviously was it Brexit Party then, or was it Reform at the time? I do forget. But anyway, they decided that they weren't going to stand against the Tories in all of the seats that the Tories already held, which was obviously, gave them a nice little boost, shored up their chances in a lot of those areas anyway. Not that they really needed it; they were doing well enough in other places, but it certainly helped, certainly contributed to their some of the vote share they would have got in those areas. This time round, you've got the Tories drastically reduced in popularity. Rishi Sunak in the mud. Labour. I mean, do you remember back when 20 points ahead was a meme? Like, it was this difficult to attain thing, and now it's just been the standard for well over a year. Yeah, when you've got the Tories doing this badly at the moment, Labour looking as good as they are, then very much feels that you're headed in a pretty clear direction with it. Liebel says, like I said, my hometown Walsall getting more blue. Speaking of hometowns, Let's have a little look in at some of the areas of the country that I've lived in before. So we'll go to my old area, Basildon. Did it fall under Basildon or Brentwood? I think I live right on the borderline between the two of them. We'll go with Basildon. Let's see how Basildon's looking. Labour put on 6 councillors for 18. The Tories lost 12. The Independents made up 6. We've gone from Tory control to no overall majority in there. Yeah, yeah. That part of Essex is definitely somewhere that the Tories do tend to do very well. Um, I would have been quite surprised to have heard that Labour had taken over the council, but the Tories have lost overall control of the rest. What about Stoke-on-Trent? Have we got good old Stoke-on-Trent anywhere around here? How have I lost dear old Stoke? It's further up here. Oh, did we not have any? Did we not have any contests in Stoke-on-Trent? I'm sure I remember hearing something about some results in Stoke, but maybe not according to this map. Strange enough. Okay. I spent a year living in Wolverhampton. We'll have a little look at Wolverhampton as well. Um, Labour up 1, Tories down 1. Oh wow, radical shift in the results there. Labour already pretty dominant in that council. Um, and yeah, if we look up over here, this is the one little area that we've not had in yet, North Tyneside, which is that I live in that I'd quite like to see. But just yeah. We looked at some of these on the actual night as well anyway. So Sunderland, we remember seeing. That was one where Labour had gained a bit of ground. But then I think we'd looked at some of the other areas in the northeast, and it hadn't been quite so uniformly good for Labour. We go on to South Tyneside. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. South Tyneside, Labour down 10. Labour down 10, Independents up 9. Greens putting on a couple, Tories losing their only councillor down onto 0 there. But you know, like we were saying a little bit earlier on, it's not to say that Labour is having a fantastic night of it, well, day of it, 2 days of it, as we get all the results in absolutely everywhere. They're not, but they are pushing forwards in those areas that they need to be able to dislodge the Tories at the next election, by the sounds of it. Interesting to see the idea of a massive Tory rebellion and all that talk has basically stopped. Sol Latimer, hello there, says, hey, nice to have you here. Apollo TV says, hi. Seems all the Susan Hall all the Susan Hall hype was so misplaced. Also, the extrapolations from the local results for this amateurish Sky News poll showing Labour short of the majority by 32 is disappointing. Yeah, Sky News is my news channel of choice just for the convenience that I go onto YouTube, Sky News Live, I put them on. It's just, like a comfy pair of shoes. You go with what you used to. But all of this bigging up of their, national vote share projection poll based on local election results is just admittedly at the very end of their segments whenever they talk about it they always kind of sheepishly do a little wink to the camera and they go, yes, but just remember that the results in the general election are obviously going to be very different, wink, but it doesn't change the fact that you've spent 5-10 minutes just going, for all the progress that Keir Starmer is making, if we look at this, maybe Labour aren't quite there yet. You don't want to vote Tory, but you want to vote for Starmer. We're not sure because look, we've extrapolated it, and they're not quite there with it just yet. It would maybe be a hung parliament or something, and it's like, oh. I mean, for one thing, Christ, these are English local elections. What about the country of Scotland? The country of Scotland's got quite a few SNP seats that are probably turning red come the next general election, notwithstanding all of our obvious gripes with the difference between extrapolating local results versus how people are going to vote in parliamentary election. Charlie Simmons says, James just put in the chat another area of London going to Caen. Everywhere declared so far has gone to Caen by about a 5% swing. Has there been a range of stuff from London so far, from inner London and outer London? Because I know that I think inner London is the area that probably fare Caen better, and then outer London might be the areas more likely to go Tory. But certainly, if everything that's reported so far is showing sort of a 5 swing towards Caen, then I mean, Caen's already the incumbent. He's not in any danger if he's getting more votes than he got the last time. Caen just won West Central London for the first time, as has voted Tory every time since 1,000. Right, okay then. So false alarm. False alarm on Sadiq Khan being any trouble in London then really, it would seem. It did sound like a very strange thing to be hearing on the night when we were going, "Oh, there's all these noises coming out of London." It's like, "Whoa, that wasn't on my radar." Um, but there we have it. So let me, hit refresh again. We're still 4 councils left to declare here. Admittedly, folks, we've had the excitement of many of these results in so far. We've got a pretty good idea of how these locals have gone. Obviously, what we've got left to come is just the mopping up of the results. We get the final numbers. We've got our nice little headlines and our final percentages and vote shares that we can pour over as well. But the main thrust of these locals is more or less coming to view now. I'd say. I think you've got we've got London Mayor, obviously. We've got Andy Street in West Midlands to see. Last few councils, and I'm guessing maybe the London Assembly, but maybe I should go double check that. What we've got for? Have you guys heard anything about the London Assembly? Whether they've got results in for that, or is that likely to be declared in tandem with the mayoral contest? Is I'm just going to search it here. Not that I care that much. London, you know. London Assembly. What do we have on here? Tension as London mayoral and assembly election count begins. That's from 2 hours ago, so it's underway at the moment. So one would guess we've still got a few hours to go before that comes. Khan is outperforming 2021 by a strong margin, says Apollo TD, and Charlie Simmons adds, looks like London is bidding for the Olympics again. Fuck yes. Sol says, if Hall won, I'd have to leave London. Right then, guys. Now, I know we've only spent a little bit of time today, but I think I'm going to look to wrap things up shortly. I feel like I've jumped back in. We've had a little recap of where we are on a few things. Doubtless, I will probably talk to you guys again. If not later on tonight, then probably tomorrow, just for a final sort of roundup of everything we've got in once we've got those last few results. Um, are you in agreement as far as Sunak goes right now? Do you think that if there was going to be some kind of a move against him, we would have heard the rumblings of that already now, and that actually he really is probably safe to the general election, probably will lead the Tories into the general election now. That had always seemed like, on balance, the most likely thing, but you certainly couldn't discount the possibility of them trying to oust him. There's definitely been enough talk about it. Richard says Labour won Greenwich. Legal says funny to repeat claiming dodginess with count delays when they were always planned to be this way. Dodginess with the count. What is this? Is this America 2020 post Trump Biden election? Dodginess. Oh, it's all fixed. It's all fixed. The reason that they've delayed the count in London is so that they can get truckloads of ballots for, for Sadiq Khan because Paul would have won otherwise, but we can just throw in all those fake ballots and we need the extra day or so to do that. Yeah. Um, Lee Hallam says, I never thought it was likely he would fight. You say you never thought it was likely he would fight the election. But you very much did think that he'd be ousted before then. Sol says he will stay on until the GE. Richard says I didn't even vote this time. Charlie says the Tories, I think, have realised if they got rid of Rishi, how they'd be even more fucked. I mean, it feels like the ultimate lose lose for the Tories now, really, doesn't it? But the track that they're on, for all intents and purposes. Oh, no, the other way around. Oh, sorry, was that a typo there? I never thought you never thought it wasn't like. Um, Yeah, but, you're stuck in that rock and a hard place, aren't you? Where every indicator is that you're heading towards, getting blasted at the next election, being out of power, fairly substantial majority for Labour. That seems to be the course you're on. it seems to be that no matter what you do, no matter how many announcements, no matter how things change over the past couple of years, you just can't steer yourself away from that course. So in that sense, you kind of go, "Oh, right, this is this is the great big train we see coming towards us on the track here. What do we do? Do we I don't know if this metaphor works actually. I was about to say, do we jump off the track? But then that means that you're getting a new leader, and arguably then you do place that leader back onto the track, and then the onus is on this new leader of the party to somehow defy the rules of physics and smash the train into Bolivian? Into Bolivia once it arrives. The point I'm trying to say, before I try to get too smart there, is simply that they're set for a big loss at the next general election, but also they try and change leader as they've done so many times in the last few years. And where are they then? Oh, what's that? You're messing about and foisting another prime minister on us and having another reset that we've had in God knows how long. It's just it's not credible. It's not a credible thing to be doing at this stage in the game. And any hopes that you'd have of going, oh, if we get a new person in, whether it's Penny Mordaunt or whoever else it might be, and then we have a 100-day policy blitz, and we say to the public, look, guys, I know we got rid of Rishi Sunak, and before him we got rid of Liz Truss, and before him we got rid of Boris Johnson. But this time we're really going to get on top of all the priorities that we've got for the country right now. And this is the new leader to do it. And we're going to announce lots of new things in the first 3 months to show that we're serious and we're going to get the job done and deliver. I just don't think I don't think the Tory party has the political capital anymore to be heard out on that kind of thing. I feel as if it is very much a writing on the wall kind of situation. I mean, the one thing that we hear about really is the prospect of whether or not anything turns up. A great phrase being used. What if I don't know? What if there's some ridiculous scandal in Labour that hasn't yet emerged, which completely sinks Keir Starmer? What if the economy suddenly starts jumping up to 3%, 4%, 5% growth in all the quarters between now and the next election? What if war in Europe breaks out and we have a rally round the flag effect and Rishi Sunak stays because we need to show what we're made of and get behind that guy because we've got to go fight Mr. Putin in a big bloody nuclear holocaust. Any of those things, and as you may have noticed, all the things I've said are pretty darn unlikely to. That falls under the umbrella of something turning up. But in the wake of nothing turning up. What if Rayner turns out to have 3 houses, as Lee Hallam? Exactly. Drew says, Hampshire, who sold a lot of land to his mates and made himself rich in the process, Boris made him a lord. Hollow TD says, unity is what voters want from the Tories, not division. Richard says, at this point, I just want them to fix the holes in the road. Lee Ball adds that and the bins, and then Richard says, you get bins collected. And Apollo adds, I don't know, the way Macron has been talking, World War III seems more likely than not. And Claire adds, if the UK economy goes up to 5% by the GE, I will give Swiss $1 million. I think we'll all be feeling like millionaires if that's the rate of growth we're getting. Right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a day for that for now. This was just popping in to bring ourselves up to speed with where things have been. I will most certainly see you guys again soon once we've got our final lot of all the results to disseminate and then any final conclusions we wish to draw or any delayed fallout of these elections that ends up happening. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy your weekends and your bank holiday Monday for those of you who are lucky enough for it to affect your working schedule. And I'll see you all later on.